Hello everybody, welcome back to the Advanced Vape channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the REUX SUBOHM tank from WISMEC. So this is a SUBOHM tank, which means it uses stock pre-made coils, but it also has an RBA section, which is what we're going to be talking about today. If you know my channel, you know that I really don't care much for stock coil stuff. I never really talk about it. I personally don't ever use them, but I know obviously a lot of people do. So it's worth it to me to get these tanks and try out the RBA sections, at least the rebuildable part of it, to see if it's something that anybody can use as basically an RTA, or for people that want to use stock coils also to have the option of the RBA if they want to get into rebuilding or whatever. So let's go on and take a look at it. It's a pretty big tank. And sorry the glass is kind of fuzzy, but there's no replacement glass in there, and it was kind of hard to get out of there to clean to get ready for filming, so I didn't want to force it past this O-ring, so I did my best to clean it, but it's not perfect. It's a pretty good looking tank, fairly large, and we'll set this to the side and talk about what's in the package just for a second. It comes in two versions, kind of the standard kit, which is just stock coils. I think it has 3 different options for stock coils. And the advanced kit, which is what this is, which is 2 stock coils and the RBA section. And according to their advertising, there's going to be 3 different RBA sections available, but I haven't seen them for sale yet. Just the one that this comes with, and I'll show it in just a second. So the way that it switches back and forth between kind of the stock coil choice or the RBA section is it has these little adapters. This is the stock coil kind of ring, and it fits in the base and gets screwed in by these 2 screws. So you can see how it kind of sits in there, and that just provides threads to thread the stock coils down. And it's essentially the same for the rebuildable deck. It just has a slightly different shape to it to support the rebuildable section. And here's what one of the stock coils looks like. A little bit wider, I think, than the rebuildable section. I'm not sure, it just kind of looks that way. This is a ceramic one. Yeah. And then just the typical stuff in there. I'm not really interested in these, especially not a ceramic one, so I haven't even taken it out of the packaging. But let's go on and talk more about the rebuildable section. So if you compare it to something like the TFV8, it's basically the same sort of thing, just around a stock coil sized unit that screws down in there and just happens to be rebuildable. So you just take the chimney off and you're left with the build deck in there. This is one of the 3 build decks, like I mentioned, and the other ones, I think there's a velocity style deck and a third one, but I haven't seen those for sale yet on any website. So this is the one that comes with the advanced kit. I know it may be kind of hard to tell because there's coils in the way, but it has one airflow slot that's kind of shared. So it starts here and moves all the way over. There's no divider in the middle there like there would normally be. So it's just one large opening split between the coils. And when I saw that in this build deck, it made me instantly think of a different rebuildable tank that came out quite a while ago. This is the Limo 3 from E-Leaf. And if you look, they're very, very similar. This has the shared airflow between both coils, and even the kind of posts are very similar. This kind of changed to clamps, whereas these are post holes. But other than that, they're nearly identical. This one's just a little bit bigger, but it just instantly made me think of this tank, especially with that shared airflow. So as you can see, I've got some staple coils in here. They're really not at all easy to install with this build deck. I would say smaller coils would be much easier to install, and this is right on the very edge of what can be fit in this RBA. So sorry about that. So if you listen to me putting this on, you can actually tell that it's just barely making contact with that outer wrapping. So as the threads touch it and it goes down and it screws in, it no longer makes contact. So there's no short there, but it's right on the very limit of what you can do with this RBA. But even if these weren't staples, if it was just a different build, I'm not a huge fan of this build deck. There's not a whole lot of room with the screw in the middle of the clamps there to get the wires in there, and they have the tendency to want to offset because you have to kind of put one in a far hole, you know, so they want to offset towards one side. So I kind of had to work with this for a minute to get it to fit on there. Okay, so I think we're ready to go on with dry firing. This is just a regular staple build on here, so no frames, just kind of a smaller staple build. Okay, so sometimes with this kind of clamp system and staples that are, you know, just by their nature really firm, it can be hard to get them to fire evenly. But that didn't take too terribly long. So the big thing with this, like most RTAs, is going to be wicking. And before I even start, I'm going to point out what we're shooting for. Right where this little line is, you can see where the bottom part of where the chimney is. The chimney rests up against this ledge. You want the cotton to be just straight across there, so not down in this area at all. You want it to just kind of sit right on top of where that ledge is. So that's the ideal. It can be kind of a little bit easier said than done, but that's what I'm going for. And I'm going to be using Kendo Gold again. I'm actually going to redo this side. It's just a little bit too light. Okay, so the next step would be adding juice and getting them into position. So now I'm just going to go through and trim the ones that were too long. It's not quite as accurate as when I'm doing it just on my own, not with the camera, but with the camera in front of me, I mean. But it looks like it it should be good. We'll see what it looks like with the chimney pressing down on it. So it's worth it to spend the extra minute or two to fiddle with it and make sure that they're the right length. Okay, so if you can see, there's not really cotton showing there, but it is well blocked in there. So as usual for me, the goal is to wick it so that it wicks very quickly, and do that to get it to go as quickly as I can get without actually leaking. And one thing I want to point out before I start this out, these airflow slots are absolutely massive. So I've kind of been just closing it down just a little bit, right about there, even with the staples in there. Because it's a ton of airflow. So I've been kind of keeping it right around there when I've been using it. And I'm going to be using this at about 100 watts. You know, this probably has the best flavor out of a sub-ohm tank that I've used. The RBA section on a sub-ohm tank. I mean, it's at the point where it can go head to head as an RTA with the other RTAs. So it's not really competing with the Modfather, the Aromizer Plus. That kind of stuff is in a separate category. But if you're talking about the smaller kind of RTA, so if you compare it to the Griffin 25 Plus or you compare it to the TFV 8, that type of thing, it beats those for me. It definitely beats the TFV8 RBA section, which is its closest kind of competitor if you're talking about just an RBA section on a sub-ohm tank. Definitely beats that on wick speed and flavor. Really, it's kind of surprising the performance off of it. So, like I said, not really fair to compare it to the Modfather, stuff like that. But if you're comparing it to sub-ohm tanks, it's downright excellent. One thing I will say though, the air, it's so airy that realistically you can't fit a big enough build into that deck to be able to take advantage of that much airflow. So if you really just like lots of air or you're going for clouds, that's fine. But if you're trying to fit a big enough build in there to kind of cope with that air, to take full advantage of it, you're going to have trouble. The staples that I have in here is right at the very limit, like I was showing, of what you can fit in here, and that's too much air for that. Just by a little bit. Having it closed like that is kind of the sweet spot for me. So, I think I had it closed just a little bit more, yeah. Right about there. So having it open all the way, it's too airy, and you know, maybe that would be for the stock coils. Maybe they need that much air, or it's kind of choked off because of their design. But for the RBA section, it's a little bit much. Unless you just like lots of air. Overall, though, really impressed by it, and I would definitely be interested in getting a hold of the Velocity deck in there, because I'm not really a huge fan of the clamp deck that it has in there that comes with the advanced kit. Just a little bit too finicky to work with for me, but it's not a huge deal. So really, if you're looking for a sub-ohm tank that has a really excellent RBA section, it's a very good choice. And if you're looking for an RTA, just a straight up RTA, you're only going to use the RBA section. There's better RTAs out there, but this is really competitive as far as the size and the kind of stuff that you can do with it in terms of flavor. So overall, I would recommend it. I would also recommend, though, picking up another build deck if you have the option to do that. So that'll bring us to the end of this video about the REUX SUBOHM tank from WISMEC. If you like this video on our channel, give us a like and subscribe to our channel. And as always, if you have any questions, leave them below in the comments or send me an email. Thanks.